Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Shifted Reality. Now, you may have spotted them in the background as I opened up here, but last episode I said I had to take some time to figure out how to incorporate the massive windows that's in the Beauty and the Beast library. Editor Me is going to cut to a flashback of that, and you will see exactly how large those windows are. They're not just large, they're ridiculously large. If you look at it, there is spiral staircases next to the fireplace that go up not one, but 2 levels, and the space above that is at least equal to what the first 2 levels, and the windows go all the way from floor to ceiling. So what's that look like in Minecraft? Look at the massive size of these, and I don't even think I'll never really come close, but this is the closest I can get. I'm not sure how to do the curtains yet. I might have to try and do something with some banners and hang a series of them along and see if I can't get a curtain effect with the banners. But yeah, these windows are absolutely massive, and we're just going to have to fill in and find a way to create the walls. Now that I have my ridiculously large windows in place, I've been considering what to do with the rest of the walls. And walls, I am not going to put any other windows in the front and the back, because honestly I think this is a good spot to be looking out from, and I'll probably be expanding this way. So I think they will just make a good standard for the placement of these oak logs to establish exactly my spacing that I'm going to be utilizing to kind of break up the wall and make it easier to make a decorative exterior line of it. Oh man, can you look at that? I thought I had enough stacks of oak wood to completely frame this out, and I only got about half of it done. Can you believe that? So I am about to grow another oak forest just so I can chop it down. Alright, now that I have all these spacers in, and I forgot to mention, the reason I am going wood with the spacers was because my son didn't like me starting off with just all the gray stone. And he said, "Dad, if it's a library, it needs to have wood in it." Well, not one to argue with that, so that's why we're using the oak logs as our spacers in this particular aspect. But the next part is I want to break it up so it kind of blends in with our existing structure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to extend in this pattern of end stone, and then the upper level we're going to extend in that pattern of stone where it kind of comes down a little bit with those upside down stairs. And we're going to extend that around the outside. And if I remember correctly, it takes about 4 stacks or so to fully go around this. So that's 3 layers deep. We need about 12. Let's pick up 15 stacks of end stone just to be safe. And there we have all of the line breaks installed. The next step will be just to continue on and fill in the gaps with wall blocks. Now, some eagle-eyed viewers who have been following along my design choices might notice that there is going to be a slight issue with establishing the wall blocks, as they will not connect to the stair blocks that we're using to add a little bit of depth and dynamic fields to this build. And for that purpose, that is actually okay, because if you think about the construction of medieval castles, they weren't just all built as they were. They were often built in stages, just like we are doing here with our base. And building such a grand and opulent library like what we saw in Beauty and the Beast would not be something that would be on their initial design. This would be something that they would build their castle, they become a wealthy, prosperous nation, and the king would then spend the opulence to upgrade or change a portion of his castle to incorporate such a grand library. And so you have to think, what would this have been used for before it was ever a library? And this section here was probably a multi-level main keep before they expanded out into other parts of the area. And as such, they probably would have had various arrow slits for castle defense. And the put in the walls and where it doesn't connect, it'll be just like our tower on the far side of the storage system that has those arrow slits, except in this case it's going to be a remnant of the castle's past. And so that establishes more of the life and the history of the build beyond just what we are working on. Because even castles, when they were completed and quote new, they were still pretty old. And I suppose you're kind of wanting to follow along with how I built this. So hopefully I have this all in a nice good time lapse. Let's cut to that now. You know how they say hindsight is 20/20? I'm kind of running into that right now. Because as I was designing this library and thinking about the placement and everything else, I was always considering about the adding the connection through the second level of the storage bin this way. And at some point I was going to put in some stairs and make my way up. But now, as I've been working on it, sometimes it's just been more convenient to come in through the side. So I just put in this little slab here so I can just hop up, and this is how I've been mainly getting in and out of this area from the storage as I've been designing and building this. However, now that I am ready to start putting in my walls and filling in all these gaps, which having the spacers and the line breaks really makes it less of an intimidating task. And I'm like, yeah, let's get on this. But it occurs to me, if I close this up, then that means my only way in would be up here. But without the stairs, I have no way out. So now my options are, let's build the stairs before I'm ready to build them, or close myself off and make it very inconvenient to get in and out of the build as I'm going. I mean, I could always just use course for it to teleport in and out, but that's pretty unreliable. So I've decided I need to make a more structured way in and out. And since I can't go through the blacksmith shop here because behind these walls is my auto smelter, the most logical place to go through would be over here. And, kind of ignore the walls around the blacksmith shop. That was just a temporary thing to make sure that any skeletons that spawn don't shoot and kill my villagers. That's going to go out once I am complete with the library, and then I'll blend that in better. So, sorry about that. So the only other logical place is to make this connect. And this is what I mean by hindsight being 20/20. Since I did not dig down where the blacksmith shop was when I first made that establishing connection, and I extended the library directly out from that. It's all on Y level 111. But the most logical place to connect it to would be through the stables right here, which is on Y level 110. So just gotta rechange this and make this a step and a door to go in through here. And, well, we'll figure this out here. Give me a second. And there we have it. We have our nice little first entryway into the library from the main level. Had to create this little step up. And I've decided I am going to go with brick on the lower level of the library exterior wall, just so that we line up with the brick that is on the same level of our storage area. Just trying to keep consistency with consistency. Now if we come up this way, we get a really good view of our progress so far. Now this, of course, is how we were initially planning to connect to the library. This little bridge with these wonderful walls textured with both depth and the wear and tear gradients is looking really good. But the part that I am now stuck with and curious about, or not so much curious, but more so struggling with, is the middle layer. Again, I broke down into the section so that it's not so intimidating to look and work on these walls. But this middle layer has me a little bit perplexed, a little bit stumped. Because if you come out and you consider that middle layer over there, it had all those browns in it. And it kind of works there where it's the red brick, yellow and stone, and the brown. It was a good transition. But that was when it only had a little bit of the stone, and the stone was framing it. And that all just kind of breaks up the framing of the stone. But now that the stone is the main part of the wall, I'm a little bit concerned if I do the brown here, it starts looking a little bit too technicolored. But at the same time, I'm worried if I do more brick, it's going to just be too much brick, too much gray, too wide. So I'm a little struggling with this, and I might do a little bit of a distraction just to sit on this and think about it for a little bit. So I sat on it and thought about it, and I decided that brown definitely was too light of a color to transition from the bright yellow of the end brick to the gray of the stone brick. So I decided I needed something a little darker. Now the best color I think would blend here to go from yellow to the gray on the overall building would actually probably be tough bricks. Unfortunately, we don't have tough bricks yet. That hasn't been released. Let me sleep real quick. And the brown was too light. Kind of didn't go in the right direction. Plus, we already have the brown of the wood dividers. They kind of simplified our job a little bit. So I thought maybe I'll try something nice and dark, such as deep slate bricks. And that is working for me. I might still come in and either texturize or even outright replace once we have tough bricks. Depends on how I'm feeling and how much this kind of grows on me. But this, for the time being, at least, is working for me. I don't have too large of a gray panel. It does break it up a little bit and keeps the eye interested in what it is seeing without being like overtly Technicolor raincoat, multi shades, constantly changing. So I'm going to come down here, take that look, and extend it all the way around the rest of these openings and finish up my exterior wall of the library. Alright, that's just a little break to check out Strange's castle because he says he has some saplings that I will need for the next part of my build. And he wanted to know, does his little cottage here fit with the style of his castle? Do these two builds fit together? And I think it's kind of cute. I think it works as a little cozy cottage village at the base of a castle on the hill. But what do you think? Leave comments below because Strange is considering full TNT explosion of this house and starting over from scratch. And I think that's a little extreme. I think this house has a lot of potential. But what do you think? Again, leave your comments below and I will pass them on to Strange. Okay, now that I have all my walls in place, and I still think the black is a bit too stark of a contrast from the gray. It's too jarring of a transition. And I really hope the tough blocks come out soon because I want to change that. But I also don't want to do the work of tearing it out and putting new stuff in. It's so terrible. But what was the resource I went over to Strange's Castle to pick up? Well, that is not everyone's favorite block. In fact, I would probably argue that it's probably one of the least favorite wood colors that is out there. The acacia tree. He gave me a bunch of saplings and I've been planting them, harvesting them, collecting them, planting them again. And the reason I'm going for acacia is the same reason why I think it's probably one of the less popular woods that are out there. And that is its stark orange color. But if you go back to the reference photo of Beauty and the Beast, there actually is quite a few highlights of orange. And, well, I could use copper. As my son said, libraries need wood. So I'm going to go with the bright orange wood blocks and use these as some of my highlights. So I'm going to need a lot. Exactly how much, I'm not really sure, but nothing wrong with having extras for a rainy day. You just can't have some people visit. I mean, green comes by and then gets blown up by a creeper right next to my base. Ugh. Now I'm left to clean this up. And let me just pause right here to talk a little bit about the design process of putting on the ceiling and roof of the structure. When it comes down to white, we don't really have much options, especially when we are looking at slabs, stairs, etc. You have your smooth quartz, You have regular quartz, so you can get slabs and slurs in. And then you have polished diorite and regular diorite. You can get your stairs and slabs in. The other white options, such as calcite uh, and concrete, unfortunately do not give you that same range of option when it comes to installing slabs and stairs. So rather than trying to get a texture on this through a gradient of some sort from old to new, which diorite, polished diorite, calcite, quartz, smooth quartz does actually make a good transitional pattern, I'm going to rely on the fact that when you're on the ground, you're so far away from this that you're not going to see much detail in any kind of texturizing. And so the biggest part of it will be having the texture of the transition, the texture of the shape of the stone itself be what guides the eye into the different shapes and the different elements of the ceiling. So now it's from this angle that I hope kind of starts showing and illustrating what I mean about using the different shapes and the different layers to create the visual appeal. Basically, you want to make the eye drawn to it and see something that's not really there. And we're creating that transitional phase where it's going from straight to broadening out into the roof, kind of giving the illusion that there's some architectural design, some arching being done in order to help stabilize and maintain the roof, as well as just generally making it visually appealing. Ah, there we are. Now that we have finished the gentle curve of the white from the walls up to the ceiling that we saw in our inspiration photo, we now need to get the blue ceiling, which is going to be mostly prismarine. Unfortunately, I have not been able to get a hold of the owner of the prismarine farm we came across. So we are going to do the next best thing, which is find an ocean monument and tear it apart to give us all the prismarine we need to continue with this building. Hello. Well, on the plus side for just breaking down a ocean monument for its raw resources of prismarine without having to develop a large farm, I have already come across several ocean monuments in just randomly exploring the world that going to grab a new one is not very difficult. In fact, there's one not too far from spawn. It's like this world was like designed for ocean monuments. I don't know. It's a weird server. So it should just be right over here, not too far away. Oh, well, that's unfortunate. 3 Elder Guardians down and no ocean template. Wait, what's that? It's another Elder Guardian head. Oh well, it is unfortunate, but it is what it is. So let's just. I'm going to get rid of my mining fatigue. Oh no, I have my water breathing. All right, and I will. What's the kind of require again? It's like just needs prismarine on like 3 sides.
No, 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 not there. Not there. What are you doing? This. Break this down.
It matters where I put it per se.
I'm just saying it'd be cool if that was like
There you go.
boom,
All right,
boom, boom, boom,
conduit
boom.
activated. Let's start raiding the ocean monument for all the prismarine. Now that we have all the prismarine that we needed, let's look up and see how the roof came out. Oh yeah, with the different shapes and textures, that is really coming together and is looking quite nice. It's got that grand opulence that I was hoping for, and it is going to look so great once everything else is complete on the interior. But let's go back out. There's one last thing I need to finish on the exterior before we can call this episode done. And that is the roof. What should the roof look like? I think I'm going to go back and look for some inspiration photos to try and get an idea. I'm thinking that I should get some form of gothic look to it. So let me search around, see what inspires me, and let's put a roof on this thing. Okay, so I didn't quite go full Gothic architecture on the roofs. I did look at some inspiration from it, and there's a lot more than just a roof that makes it Gothic, so I am leaving that more or less out of the picture right now. But let's take some look at some drone footage of how the roof came out and where our base is at so far. Check this out. What do you think of the roof so far in our exterior build? Now, there's still a few cleanup projects that I need to do, and I was really hoping to get a thunderstorm somewhere and recording that so I could see what it looked like when these lightning rods are getting struck by lightning. But overall, it is kind of a nice little attachment that differentiates it from the initial storage area on our Phase 2 build. And coming up next, we are going to finish off some of the landscaping changes that need to be done. Just a few, just a few little things that we've kind of put off. And then we are going to get working on the interior. So be sure to subscribe, leave a comment, and come back to see how the Beauty and the Beast library turns out.